Hey, it's T.A. Welcome to Armchair Observations. So, in the past, I've talked about bands I've played in, and there have been a few, quite a few. But this time, I'm going to talk about the bands I've worked for. They all revolve around one person and the bands that he's played in. So, I've worked for Steve Dahl and Teenage Radiation, and worked for Black Box, especially their 2009 Warp Tour, the Midwest leg, which was pretty crazy. 5 days, four shows, starting in Cincinnati. Then we went to Milwaukee, then down to Detroit, and then finished in Chicago. And an interesting side note that I witnessed a band called I Fight Dragons, and they were a chiptune band, not the typical music. So chiptune was their controller and helped to make most of their sounds, but it was original material written around those sounds, not using the stock tunes from the song from the video games, but from their own minds, creating with the chiptune equipment. Pretty cool. And I actually had an opportunity to audition for them. And it's kind of interesting too because Black Box, who I was working with at the time, they told me that this was my gig to lose. Their lawyer, I Fight Dragon's lawyer, told our guys that it's my gig to lose. So I go to the audition, North Suburbs, never been there before, a rehearsal studio, old factory, and they had a lot of vault areas, a lot of vault rooms. And it was all cement floor with a riser of cement. It was small, and these guys were cranked up. They were so loud, I couldn't even hear myself play. It was really, really tough to deal with. And you're not going to impress people on how to do things, how to play in a rehearsal environment like that. They're going to do what they're going to do. I don't play that hard. I don't have to. You don't have to. If you're in a band, even if you're on a pro stage with full front of house monitors, mixers, the whole deal, you don't have to play that loud. You should be able to talk to each other in a kind of a high voice or a loud voice. Should be able to talk to each other on a stage, be able to communicate, and the band doesn't have to play that loud. You don't have to play that loud. These people were insanely loud. Anyway, it didn't work out and I got passed over. So I lost it. But the story goes in the mid 70s, I started going to Music Lab for drum equipment and made friends with everybody at the lab, including the owner, Ken Anderson. And Ken said, "Are you looking for a new kit?" And I said, "I might be." He says, "I have one for sale." I said, "Really? Show me." So he takes me over to it. It was in the back room. The back room of his store was his rehearsal spot with his band, cover band. And it was a 70s, early 70s pearl white, not pearl white, white pearl. Yeah, how to get around that naming. White pearl, um, almost an 8-piece kit. It was four concert toms, three double-headed toms, 12, 13, 16, bass drum, snare, and the hardware. So really all I had to do was add cymbals, and of course they've got them there. And he goes, I'll even finance it. And it was through household finance. So I said, yeah. The price was decent. I took it. I signed on the dotted line, got myself a drum set. Great kit. It was a little worn, but not that bad. And I had actually gone there for drum lessons, but that didn't work out either. I was self-taught from the time I was 10. That's when I started playing drums. And now being, I would think I was 19, maybe 20 at the time, um, it didn't really work out. The teacher would have to rearrange so much of my thinking that it wouldn't have worked out. It wouldn't have been easy at all. So I let it go. But anyway, I made friends with people at the store. I bought the kit, started playing gigs, and you started playing gigs and getting gigs through the store too, which was actually kind of nice. But one of the guys I made friends with was Jim Marslak, rest in peace. Jim understood that I played and asked me if I wanted to jam sometime. And I said, sure. So we set up a date and he comes over. Now, this was, again, yeah, late 70s, I want to say. Probably 79, I'm going to say. And Jim says, I asked another drummer to come over too. I go, sure, great, more the merrier. And I actually knew the guy. His name was Pat, lived on the other side of the village. His dad worked at U.S. Steel also. And I knew him. Good guy. And so, anyway, we start jamming. We pick a tune. We all agree on it. We start playing. And Jim's a guitar player. He starts a song. The drummers come in. And after about into the first verse, Pat stops and starts tuning his drums. He doesn't like the way they're tuned, or something's loose, or something's out of place, or a stand's not working out. And he finishes and he goes, let's try something else. So we pick another tune. Same thing. Into the verse, and he's not satisfied with his kit. And then it happens again. So Jim goes, let's call it. I think that's enough for today. I said, okay. Jim leaves, Pat leaves. I pack up, bring my stuff back downstairs. I was living at my parents' home still. And the next week, I get a phone call, and it's Jim. Jim wants to know if I've got availability this coming Friday. And I was laid off from the mills at the time. So I said, yeah, what do you got going on? He goes, I need a drum tech. Well, back then it was called drum roadie, but bringing up today's terms. He says, I need a drum tech for a show coming this Friday. I said, sure. I said, what time? He goes, well, 11 o'clock in the morning. I go, that's awful early. He goes, well, we're doing a teaser show at a high school. I go, great. And it was Hillcrest High School. Interesting enough, the band I was in at the time were students there. Well, a couple of them were. And they were just finishing their senior year. So it was kind of, I was relatively familiar with the place. So we get there, we set up. The band does a tease, and the band is Steve Dahl and Teenage Radiation. And that's when I met GP, Gregg Potter. We became fast friends right away. I mean, no problems at all. The teaser show went well, and then the following evening or later that night, um, we did the regular show and went off without a problem. And it was pretty entertaining. Had I ever seen them at that point? Yeah, I did. I saw them at Loop Fest in January of '79. Actually, no, I take that. Yeah, it's at Loop Fest. And then this call was actually 1980. Yeah, I did my first gig with the band in 1980. So anyway, 1980, did the evening show, and Potter and I, like I said, we got along. And he starts calling me TA. And that nickname is stuck to this very day. Um, so I've been with him over 40 years. It just works. It's just a good relationship. We get along. We understand each other, drummer to drummer. I know I'm not as pro as him. I'm no Jeff Beccaro. I can play well enough that people appreciate my style. But as far as a drum tech goes, the understanding and how to put equipment together helped. And it made it, like, again, fast friends. So because of that association with Greg, I continued a couple of years working for Radiation. Um, the mills were picking up again, and I was going back to work. And so I was subsequently fired because I wasn't available on Fridays when they would need me, which is not the case. I get out of work at 4 o'clock, show's not until 7, 8, 9. Currently, Greg is the drummer for the Buddy Rich Big Band. Currently led by Kathy Rich, Buddy's daughter. But Kathy met Greg at one of her tribute shows to her dad at the Hammerstein. They talked. Greg had the swing that she's looking for and pulled him into the band, made him the drummer that would take the band into the new millennium, as it were. He's got now chops, make it interesting for younger viewers. So we played New York, Chicago, LA, Tokyo, Milan, and then we did a week of shows in London. In London at Ronnie Scott's. Big deal was that Buddy hadn't been there in a long time. He passed away in the 80s. So the void was there, and we were going there to fill it. 6 nights, Sunday through Friday. Thursday night shows, so there were 2 shows each night. Thursday night's evening show, late evening show, was broadcast on the internet. The demand was so high Not everybody could get in. Not everybody had tickets. It was packed house every night. So 6 nights, packed house. Just crazy. So that's my story about bands I've worked with. And again, all revolved around Gregg Potter. To this day, I think it was such a great ride. Had such a blast working with him. I don't do it much now because I'm in Nashville now and he's still in Chicago, so I can't just drive up to Chicago when he does a local show. And he works for a lot of other bands too. Anyway, have a good day. Take care of yourself. Take care of others. I'll see you next time.